What is going on, team? I hope you're having a beautiful start to the morning. We are coming in with another episode of the podcast, and we are going live all across our academies, our Facebook groups, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all the things. So, guys, if you're coming this one live, you know what to do. We are here for the podcast episode, and we're going to be talking about metabolism, the mystery of metabolism. Hey, this is going to be a helpful episode, I think, for a lot of people, a lot of listeners. So, if you're coming into this one live, guys, you know what to do. Get down into the comments and let us know that you're here. I'm pumped to do this episode. You guys know I love doing the podcast, and we're approaching 350 episodes of the podcast now, so super hyped for it. So, yeah, let's get stuck into it. We're going to kick this podcast off in 2 minutes, guys. So if you're coming in live, make sure you let us know that you're here. Thanks for being able to adjust to all of these recent time zone changes. With the end of daylight savings across like 4 or 5 countries, it becomes pretty hard to keep up. But if you're inside at our academy, you'll always find the most updated times in the banner above here, hopefully. Hello, Chriso. How are you, legend? Guys, we're going to start this one in 2 minutes. Hello, Trace. What's going on, buddy? Welcome back to Trace. I know that it's been a challenging few weeks, particularly for you, mate. So we appreciate you and we love you, girl. Like, totally love you. Guys, we're going to get this kicking off in about 90 seconds. Hello, Marky boy. What's happening, mate? How's the running going, pal? I hope you're trekking on. You're looking decked as well, big dog. Really super decked. I love it. We are kicking off in 1 minute, team. So if you are coming to this one live, guys, let us know. If you do watch it on replay, you know what to do. Get down to the comments. Let us know that you're here and you're got some value out of the podcast. Hopefully, we're going to be talking about metabolism this morning or this evening, this afternoon, whatever it is for you. So we'll kick this off in 30 seconds. If you have any questions over the course of the podcast, or if you pop them in, I will get to them once I see them, either during or after the podcast episode kicks off. By the way, Chriso, I hope you've managed to get some sleep there, champion. I know that was a pretty hectic overnighter for you, dude. All right. I think we are warming up and ready to rock and roll. So, all right, let's get this kicking, guys. I think we're good to go. Let's do it. On the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to the Better Body Academy podcast. This is the podcast that you come to when you're sick of the dumb diets and unsustainable workout programs. We're approaching episode 350. I think we've got about 5 to go. And in today's episode, I want to talk a little bit about metabolism myths, because I think this is the number one thing that we feel like is happening to us as we get past 40, right? It feels like gravity takes over, shit starts heading south, and it's hard to get yourself motivated when you're feeling like, oh my God, like my metabolism's working against me. So what we're going to talk about in this episode is breaking down perhaps some common myths around metabolism and giving some truth to the argument about what actually happens to the body after 40. Because if we know what happens after 40 and we got a bit of an idea of what we're working against, this makes it a little bit more possible for us to be able to navigate this going forward. So metabolism myths, what really happens to your body after 40? So let's start at understanding the basics of metabolism, because I think that's where we've got to start. I want to ask you, if you're watching this one live, if I got you to define what metabolism is, would you be able to tell me? Could you tell us what metabolism is? And I ask that question because I think a lot of people blame their metabolism because they have a feeling that's something to do with why they're overweight, but they don't actually know what metabolism is. So they're blaming something that they don't understand and they have no control after. So let me give you a simple idea of what metabolism actually is. In simple terms, metabolism is how the body converts the food we eat into energy so that we can do stuff. That's the basics of what metabolism is. So, what most people are talking about when they talk about metabolism, they're talking about their resting metabolic rate, which basically just means if you sat down on a couch for the entire 24 hours, how many calories would you burn? So your resting metabolic rate is just, think of it almost like what your total fuel tank is for the day if you just sat on the couch and did nothing. Now, of course, it's going to be more than that because you're going to go out and do stuff in the world. You're going to maybe do some exercise, take the kids to school, walk around. There's going to be a whole lot of activity that's added on top of that. So there's two terms that it's helpful to understand. One is what's called your resting metabolic rate. And then the second term is your total daily energy expenditure. So your resting metabolic rate is if you sat on the couch and did nothing for 24 hours. How much you burn totally is going to be that resting figure plus all the activity that you've done over the course of a day. Does that make sense? That's how we summarize our metabolism. What it takes to keep the lights on, the amount of power that it takes to keep the lights on, add on top of that the exercise and the other activity that we do. So the question is, does that metabolism, particularly the resting part of that, does that actually slow down after 40 years of age? Is there a magic number that it starts to slow down after? Well, metabolism does decrease, definitely. But it's often less than people think. And it's not instant. It might feel instant, but for most people, our metabolism's been dropping since about our 30s, actually. So if you're in your 40s and 50s, just understand that metabolism is always dropping, and the primary reason for why it's dropping is a loss of muscle mass. And there's a reason for that. Why is it that muscle reduction, losing muscle, why is that it causes a slowing down in your metabolism? There's a simple reason. Muscle, the stuff that I'm holding here, is what's called the most metabolically active tissue. All that means in normal terms is it's really hungry for calories. So if you have a lot of muscle, what actually happens is that muscle needs a lot of food. Pretty simple. And so what happens is over time, as your muscle reduces, you don't need as much food or calories. And so your metabolism starts to decrease. Your resting metabolic rate starts to decrease. Now, in addition to that, what's changed over the last 30 to 40 years is we're sitting at a desk a lot, right? We've got much less active lives. And what that basically means is that not only is the resting amount decreased, but on top of that, we're just not moving very much. And because we're not moving very much, the part on top of that leads to the total daily energy expenditure is just pretty small. And so this is the reason why typically people have gained weight. When you combine lower expenditure with these crazy hyperpalatable addictive foods that are full of calories, you've just got the perfect equation for weight gain. Now, it might be worth knowing that as you get a little bit older, your digestion can also get a bit worse. So we start to maybe slow down our ability to process food, and that causes some bloating and some discomfort. And we typically mistake that for weight gain. But a lot of the times that goes away when we actually correct our diet and start to improve our fiber, improve our protein level. So when we're talking about fat gain, we need to be making sure that we're actually talking about fat and it's not just bloating or stomach discomfort. Now, what is definitely true after 30, 40, 50 is that the hormones are changing. For women, it's a sharp decline at perimenopause. For men, it's a gradual decline over the course of their life, probably from about 20 to 25 years old. So let's talk about what's actually happening. In women, estrogen, it drops down, and that affects our body composition. So have you ever noticed that an overweight woman at 20 to 30 years old would typically carry a lot of it around her butt and her hips? But then by the time we're, say, 50 or 60, often postmenopausal, usually postmenopausal, all of a sudden the weight is around the tummy. You might have visions of your mum or your nan being a little bit more barrel-chested, and that's because of the changes mostly to estrogen. The hormones are going away, and effectively they're becoming more like the profile of a man. So the fat is getting stored around the chest, which is why women tend to gain belly fat as they get older. But on top of that, it becomes a little bit higher risk of things like diabetes and heart attack. Now, for men, testosterone declines over the course of their life steadily from about 25 years old. And this leads to a reduction in muscle mass, an increase in body fat. And a lot of the times we think that that's beyond our control. It's something that we can't control, right? When actually the main thing is that the lifestyle we're living is contributing to the drop in testosterone, not necessarily just the fact of getting older. Now, when we talk about something like, say, growth hormone, which is both in men and women, you might have heard this before. Growth hormone is super important for helping to repair your cells of your body, maintaining muscle mass. This generally drops down over time. So there are some things which we can't do anything about. But the big point that I want you to take out of this is that I'd say let's call it a 50-50. It depends on the individual. But there is a lot you can do that's to do with your lifestyle, and a hell of a lot that's nothing to do with your lifestyle at all. It's just part of getting older, the changes to hormones, the slight loss of muscle mass. However, you can do some things that prevent that from impacting you in the big way. So let's talk about maybe busting some metabolism myths. Number one, I cannot lose weight after 40 years of age. It certainly feels like that for a lot of us, doesn't it? Right? But I think a lot of the time it's because the way we're going about losing weight is wrong. We're trying to cut calories down to the ground. We think that the best way to get the fat off is to do more and more and more and more exercise. And in addition to it, the type of exercise that we're doing is kind of like cardio-based exercise. So we feel like this almost like hamster on the wheel, and eventually we can't keep it up. We get frustrated that it's not working, and then we give up. And then the moment we stop, all the weight comes back on again. We do the opposite. We surge our calories, and then we drop off all exercise. So the method is wrong. Number two, the myth that metabolism is like, I just have a bad metabolism. And it's always been the case. I've just got a bad metabolism. That's just not factually true. It's not factually true. It is so clear that your nutrition, the type of exercise that you do, your sleep levels, and the stress are what impact your metabolism. Your metabolism is not fixed. It can be changed. Even if you feel like you have a broken metabolism, actually your metabolism's not broken. Your metabolism is doing what it's designed to do, to keep you alive, because your metabolism is trying to stop you from losing more weight because the brain doesn't want you to die. So your metabolism's not broken. Your metabolism is in place to try to help you stay alive. If you're going to overcome your metabolism and fix your broken metabolism, you've got to do the things that you haven't been willing to do to this point in order to rectify it. And that can include things like eat more food, lift weights, Try to have some way of relieving some of your stress and sleep more so that your behaviors are better and your hormones start to correct themselves, as we've talked about. And then we talk about myths like eating late at night causes weight gain. It doesn't cause weight gain at all. That's a complete myth. Overeating calories relative to your total daily energy expenditure, it's what causes weight gain. Does this make sense, guys? When we're talking about practical tips for a healthy metabolism over 40, look, it boils down to probably 3 to 4 things that you should focus on. Number one, and if it's not already clear, you have to adopt some strength training. I'm going to say this and prosecute this idea till I'm black and blue in the face at 100 years old. Every day that you are prioritizing cardio over strength training will be a day that you regret when you are 50, 60, 70, and 80. And the reason is because you will be weaker, less stable, less agile, less mobile, less strong, and your metabolism is going to slow down. So the weight gain is going to continue. You have to prioritize strength training. Number two, contrary to what a lot of people think, I don't really need protein as I get older. No, you do actually, because your body is breaking down quicker. If you're in your 50s, you should be absolutely prioritizing your protein target over everything else. You need it to support the maintenance of your muscles. It's critically important. Number three is adopting a little bit of a cleanliness towards your sleep habits. Look, I get it. It's hard. For women, particularly when they're going through menopause, like sleep becomes really fucking difficult. And to any of you that run a business or live in the current world, it's a stressful place to live a lot of the times. But if you have this chronic stress plaguing you and you're feeling that right now, you know how it feels. You don't feel like eating good. You feel like drinking more. You don't feel like hanging out with friends. You don't feel like doing the things that lead to better health. You feel like doing the exact opposite, which becomes this vicious circle, right? And then finally is the way that our lifestyles are designed right now is setting us up for shithouse poor metabolisms. We sit down for hours on end, and on the other side, we have this abundance of high calorie, addictive, hyperpalatable foods that it's difficult to escape from. And so this is the reason why the world is overweight. So what do? If you're sitting there just with your average person, you're thinking to yourself like, fucking hell, this is like, I'm up against it here. Where do I start? It's a good question. Where I would personally start is if you want to, let's just say you're feeling like your metabolism is your biggest problem. You've been trapped on low calories for a long period of time, and you feel like you've been stuck dieting forever and a day and nothing's working. This would be my advice. You've got to start by focusing on building some strength and muscle through resistance training. By this, and I know like this won't hit until it finally hits, and you've heard it 17,000 times from me. I am not talking about group fitness. I am not talking about spin classes. I'm not talking about F45. I'm not talking about cardio with weights in your hands. I'm talking about doing sets of 8 to 12 repetitions of squeezing the muscle. Squeezing the muscle is what produces the outcome that you're trying. That's the thing. Squeezing the muscle. Doing 8 to 12 repetitions and then having a break in between of 1 to 2 minutes where you recover so that you can then go and squeeze the muscle again. And when you consistently do this, your muscles get stronger. They start to build a little bit bigger, and then they demand more calories. And guess what the outcome's going to be for you? It means that you can go on holidays, drink more, eat more, get to Christmas and enjoy more pudding because your muscles demand the calories. But until you get to that point, and if you leave it too late, you're always going to be feeling like, oh, the only route for me is just to keep restricting. And that feels like a jail. It feels like there's no freedom there. So if you want to get to the point where you have more food freedom to be able to eat and drink the things you want, that's your answer. You've got to build more muscle. Guys, I hope this was a simple enough overview of metabolism. I hope the topic has been cleared up a little bit for you, because I think the word metabolism sounds like a strange word. It's thrown out there as cliches, and no one seems to actually understand what it means. And if you've been blaming your metabolism for not being able to lose weight or not being able to move forward, I get it. It does feel like you're trapped. But at the same account, there are some things that you can do about it. So if you need some help, whether you're in our academy or you're not, reach out and we'll put you on the right course. This has been the Better Body Academy podcast, coming to you for another day. I hope you guys are beautiful and having a lovely, lovely afternoon, morning, or evening. I'll catch you in the next episode. All right, team. Hopefully that hit the mark. It hit the mark. It's like, hey, Renee, how are you? Hey, Cars. I hope you're good, girls. Yeah, it's just this thing that people are never going to get until they get it. And then once they get it, once they realize how much food they can actually start eating and how much better they feel when they're strong, they've got a strong metabolism, all of a sudden life changes really quite quickly. Anyway, my dudes, I'll see you guys over. Have a beautiful start to the morning, evening, or afternoon. We'll chat soon. Hey, Jules.